Hey guys, how's it going? So in today's video, I want to talk to you about some of the brand new shrubs that are coming out this year in 2020. We already put together videos about some of the new annuals and the new perennials. If you haven't seen those yet, we'll put links down below. Definitely check them out because there's some really exciting things coming up this year, and I've had a chance to grow quite a number of them, and I've been really excited about them. So I've got 5 shrubs to talk about today. The first one is called Groundhog Aronia, which is a type of chokeberry. So I wanted to start with this shrub because I feel like it's going to be a real problem solver for a lot of the things that we come up against in the garden. And we do get messages quite often about what kind of things can we put in bad soil or to help stabilize the soil or suppress weeds, or something that can take both sun and shady locations, and the Groundhog Aronia can do all of those things. It doesn't put on a huge show in terms of like big blooms and big color throughout the whole season, but you do get spring blooms. So they're these little cute dainty white blooms, and then you've got your nice glossy green foliage throughout the summer, and then it turns a vivid bright red in the fall, and those blooms are followed by berries. So you really do get a couple of really nice shows from this plant, and the wildlife and birds love the berries. So they are edible, they're not a poisonous berry at all, so totally safe to have around your pets and kids and all that sort of thing. But they're not super palatable, they don't taste very good. So the birds and the wildlife can help clean them up in the fall and winter time, and it's kind of nice that you provide a food source for them at the same time as having something that's really covering a lot of different issues out in the garden. A couple other things about this one: it is a zone 3 through 9, and you really shouldn't have to be doing any pruning on it. It does bloom on old wood, so if you do find yourself in a position where you need to prune it, you should do it directly following the spring bloom. That will disrupt any kind of berry set that you get for the next fall, but if you want blooms the next season, that's about the time frame you need to do it. It's kind of like your lilac and forsythia. You want to wait until they're done blooming to do your pruning. They're also very heat and cold tolerant, which is really great for us over here in Eastern Oregon because typically we have very cold winters and very hot summers. So to have plants that can withstand that huge swing of temperature, oftentimes over 100-degree swing in temperature, is really awesome. The second shrub on my list is the Winecraft Gold Smokebush, and I have to say, of all the shrubs, I think I'm most excited about this one because of the color variation that we get with it. It also doesn't grow like a traditional smokebush in that it stays much more compact, much more dense in its growth. It only gets about 4 to 6 feet tall and wide, which makes them so much easier to tuck into flower beds. The traditional type smoke bushes, they can get like 10, 12 feet tall and wide, and that's an enormous plant. So when this one leaves out in the spring, the leaves are a really bright orange, and then they mellow to a chartreuse green, and they maintain that color throughout the season. And their leaves are kind of rounded shaped, kind of waxy. They're just a really pretty color and texture to mix in your flower borders. And I always appreciate that. Something that's got a little bit of a different color, something with some brightness to add some shine and pop to a flower bed. They come out with these green smoke-like blooms in early summer, and then they deepen to kind of a pink color. So you do get some show with that. I love to use those in cut flower arrangements. They add such a unique texture. So this plant is a zone 5 through 8. It likes a full sunspot, but can take a little bit of filtered sun, and it is resistant to deer. Number 3 on my list is the Magenta Chiffon Hibiscus. And I just want to take a second to talk about the Chiffon Hibiscus series as a whole, because they're different. They've got a different growth habit, different flower habit than your traditional type Rose of Sharon's, which traditional types have kind of more of a, I want to say, a strict or a stiff kind of vase shape in the garden. They're kind of like this stalwart plant that doesn't really shift or move in the breeze at all. The Chiffon series is much more rounded, a little bit more dense, more gracefully moving. The flower coverage is better on the Chiffon series, and the flowers last longer. In addition to the Magenta Chiffon, which is the new one for this year, there's also lavender, blue, white, pink. They're all beautiful, and whether or not you want to do just one or a grouping of them, they are just a really neat plant, and they have a very little amount of seed set, so you won't see seedlings popping up all over the place. They attract hummingbirds. They do get quite large, so 8 to 12 feet tall and about 6 to 10 feet wide, and they do like a full sun position. They perform the very best when they can have as much sun as possible. I think the color of this one is so pretty because it's going to blend so nicely with so many other different things in my garden, and it's not the type of plant that you want to kind of tuck into the back of a flower bed because it only blooms for 2 weeks in the spring. It's one of those that starts to shine when everything else starts to fade away from like your first flush of perennial bloom, and it will keep blooming all the way throughout that hot part, like the dog days of summer, through a pretty good frost. And I think it would look gorgeous paired up with like plain the blue salvia, maybe a little lime hydrangea, maybe a little bit of ornamental grass. There's just so many different options. And they are a zone 5 through 9. I'm not sure that I mentioned that earlier. Number 4 is the Fizz Juniper, and I really like this evergreen not only because it has a very pleasing shape. It grows more pyramidal, about 10 to 18 feet tall and up to 10 feet wide, creating a really nice hedge if that's how you want to use it. But they also have a really heavy set of like grayish blue berries. So if you are the type who likes to cut branches and things for holiday decorations, or you just like the look of that out in your garden, this is a really good variety for that. They're zone 4 through 8, so very winter hardy, and they require very little water, especially once they're established. They just don't need a lot to thrive. And if you live in an area where you deal with deer, so deer come in your garden and feast on your stuff, I get lots of messages from you guys, and I hear about a lot of you who are dealing with that. I don't have that particular issue. I have gophers. That's what I deal with in my garden. But if you have deer, this is a really good alternative to the arborvitae, which the deer tend to like to eat. They want a full sun location, like the hotter and more sunny, the better, and they don't require any pruning. In fact, you want to site them in an area where you can just let them grow to their size, because they don't really want to be harshly pruned, I guess is the right word. You don't want to cut into the really thick woody parts of the plant because they are fairly slow to recover. However, cutting little branches for holiday decorating around the shrub is totally fine. And for another deer-resistant shrub choice, the last one on my list is called the Illuminati Tower Mock Orange. You might be familiar with the older varieties of mock orange, which are a really wonderful, kind of nostalgic, old-fashioned plant, most of the time growing quite large, but this one was very well named, I think, in calling it a tower because it only grows about 3 to 4 feet tall and about 18 to 24 inches wide. So that is not a very big shrub, and because it grows kind of like this pillar or this tower, it makes for a really strong, narrow vertical accent in your flower beds. And in late spring, early summer, it comes out with hundreds and hundreds of white blooms that look kind of stacked. So they're almost kind of in a tower formation themselves, and they have that really wonderful mock orange sweet scent that I love. The other thing that's different about this variety of mock orange is that, like the older varieties, tend to have a little bit of a tired look toward the end of the season. The foliage just doesn't look the best. It looks a little tattered, maybe just a little worn out. This one has very thick, dark green, heavily veined foliage that just takes the elements a lot better, can take the summer heat, and it looks much more fresh when you get toward the end of the season. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about an old-fashioned mock orange that I know I have out in the garden that I think it's time maybe for that one to come out, so I can put some of these new varieties in that will do a lot better for me in the garden, because right now I've been battling with that mock orange, and I've been like trying to figure out how to cut it back to where I can regain its shape, and it's just this kind of gangly thing. So I think that it's a really good opportunity to get that one out there and get an Illuminati Tower planted. They are a zone 4 through 7. Like I said, they are resistant to deer. They're also drought tolerant once they're established. So there's just a lot of good things about this shrub. So that's it, you guys. That's my list of 5 brand new shrubs that are coming out this year. Keep your eyes open for them. I'm sure we'll be following this video up as well as the annual and perennial video up by planting a lot of these things out in our garden and showing you how we're doing with them. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it inspirational, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.